Yo, what's up fam? It's your boy Legend and I'm back with another video. New series. What if Naruto was sent to the Jujutsu Kaisen Universe Part 1? If you guys like this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe while you at it. The like goal is 6, but if we could get 10 plus that would be nice. But without further ado, let's get into the intro so we can start this what if. Why are we meeting up in Harajuku? Asked Megumi flatly, though an annoyed scowl had formed on his face from his fellow first year's actions. Yuuji was wearing a really stupid pair of glasses that were shaped in the form of the word rook, that garnered attention from passerbys, mostly to pause and either giggle or snicker to themselves. While Fushiguro tried his utter best to pretend that he didn't know the pink-haired boy. "'Cause it's what she asked for," Satoru replied, his tall frame making it easy for him to search for the third first year. Yuuji looked at the man, wondering if the man could truly see through the blindfold, and hey, if Megumi was that irritated about his glasses, then he should be irritated at Satoru's blindfold too. Which garnered just as much, if not more attention than his glasses did. A man practically harassing a woman by asking if she was interested in modeling because of her beauty and her assets caught their attention. Megumi and Yuuji glanced at each other before the latter took a step forward to stop it, but he didn't have to. Both boys looked on, dumbfounded, as a girl with short orange hair grasped the man by the back of his shirt collar. "Oi, what about me?" she demanded. The man turned around to look at her, shivering slightly at the girl. "What do you mean?" he stammered. "For the modeling gig, obviously." "What do you think about me?" she asked, a scowl forming on her fairly pretty features as the man hastened to get out of her grasp with a stammered apology. "We're gonna go talk to her," Yuuji mumbled to Megumi with uncertainty in his tone as he glanced warily at the girl. "Considering she has a similar uniform to ours, I would guess so," he replied dryly. "This is kinda embarrassing," Yuuji said, watching the conversation between the man and the girl, not missing the fact that everyone around had their attention on the two. Megumi scoffed at that, glaring lightly at the pink-haired vessel. "As are you." "Oi, over here." It was eventually Satoru who called out to her, waving his hand comically, though he didn't have to. He stood out pretty easily thanks to his height and the fact that he was the only one dressed in the Jujutsu sorcerer's outfit and was wearing a blindfold. It was the latter fact that Kugasaki Nobara focused on. "What's with the blindfold?" she asked, raising her eyebrow before looking over at the two that were supposed to be her classmates. One pink-haired boy and one raven-haired boy, with the former having a beaming grin and the latter having a blank look on his face. "Great, I have an idiot and an emo on as my classmates," was the girl's thought process as she glanced the two boys up and down before sighing. "Damn," she took one look at us and sighed. Yuuji mumbled. "Introduce yourself, come on, Satoru said encouragingly. "TCH, Kugasaki Nobara. Congrats boys, you now have a woman on your team," she said flatly, a hand on her hip as she stared at them with sass in her eyes that they could practically feel. Satoru nodded happily before turning to the two boys. "Fushiguro Megumi," came the raven-haired boy's stoic response. "Itadori Yuuji, nice to meet you, Kugasaki," he said, raising his hand in greeting, with what he hoped was a friendly smile. There was an awkward pause as Nobara glared at the two boys, with Megumi staring back, not at all flinching at the glare, while Yuuji awkwardly dropped his hand. Eventually, Megumi glanced towards his sensei. "Are we going somewhere now?" Satoru put a finger to his chin in thought. "Well, all three of you are here, and two of you are from the countryside," he said, pausing for dramatic effect. "So we are gonna go on a tour of Tokyo," he announced. There was another pause, and Megumi swore he saw Yuuji practically vibrate on the spot. Suddenly, both he and Nobara burst out in joy. Tokyo. Tokyo. We love Tokyo. They both chanted as if they were now best of friends and share a single brainchild together. Megumi could only grimace and try to hide his face using his collar as the two, along with their equally idiotic sensei, jumped in joy, naming all sorts of places. With Yuuji even saying that Yokohama was in Tokyo. It was not, but he wasn't going to bother correcting them and give the impression that he was with them. I will now announce our destination, Satoru shouted so that his voice could carry over both Yuuji's and Nobara, both of whom stopped much like a car that had its brakes hastily pushed on. Roppongi, he said with a grin. Roppongi. His two fellow first years looked at each other with stars in their eyes. Yes, let's, Satoru cut himself off when his phone rang unexpectedly. The two students didn't notice, but Megumi did, raising an eyebrow at him. It wasn't unnatural for him to get phone calls, but usually, whenever he was on missions or on teaching duties, he made it a point to let everyone know, so that they don't call him during the missions. If they were still calling him despite that, then it must be quite important. Satoru frowned, but answered it regardless, as the two idiots finally noticed that he was talking on the phone. Megumi was a bit astonished that the two loudmouths had the common decency to shut up while someone is talking on the phone. Hello, this is a pleasant surprise, you never call me, he heard Satoru say. Really? Well, that's great, we can do that. Satoru cut himself off, his white eyebrows raised behind his blindfold. I'm sorry, did you just say another? No, I heard what you said, but are you high? Really, I could have sworn you just said, what? You're telling the truth, and you think I can? Oh. Suddenly, Satoru's face turned serious, making Megumi wonder just how serious this issue was. Satoru was never serious. All right. I'm coming over right now, he said firmly with authority. Yuuji was confused. Sensei, is something wrong? He asked with concern. Satoru glanced down at him and grinned. Wrong. Nothing's wrong. Wait, actually, something is wrong, but we don't know how wrong it is. Which is why we're postponing our trip to Roppongi. Instead, we're gonna go pick up someone else, he said. What? Nobara yelled, making even Yuuji wince. Are you serious? I was really looking forward to it, she said, scowling. Sorry, Nobara-chan, Satoru said, smiling, patting her head, making her scowl even more fiercely at him, but this is a potential emergency. I'm only taking you with me because I don't want you guys to go off on your own just yet. I need to test you, so you're going to exorcise that curse in Roppongi with me there to watch. He added mentally. A few minutes later, the four of them were in the metro, moving towards their new destination. Satoru looked deep in thought as Yuuji and Megumi glanced at each other. Nobara looked between the two boys, as they always like that. She whispered. Not really, he's never that serious. At least as far as I've seen, Yuuji whispered back to his fellow countryside resident. I've known him for years, and I've rarely ever seen him that serious. Megumi said, not bothering to lower his voice. That's because it is a potentially serious situation. I can explain it to you, but nah. I'd rather you hear it for yourself, it will be more hilarious. Satoru said, his blindfolded eyes looking into the rearview mirror at his students. And he's back again, Yuuji joked. Well, can you at least tell us why we're going where we're going? Nobara asked, crossing her arms, irritated as they won't be going to Roppongi. Well, at least it's been postponed and not cancelled. Heck, maybe she'll get to buy some cute outfits on the way to Roppongi if they were going to be long. An old friend of mine has found someone in unique circumstances. Even more unique than yours, Yuuji-kun. Satoru answered after a pause. Huh, what? Nobara said, looking between the tall man and the pink-haired boy in confusion. Itadori ate a special grade cursed object, a finger of Ryom and Sukuna. Megumi answered before Yuuji could. What? Nobara exclaimed, causing several people to turn to her in annoyance, which she paid no mind. You ate it. She hissed, making sure to keep her tone low. Though her eyes were filled with disgust, that is so fucking gross, she said, backing away from him, though there was nowhere to go considering how crowded it was in the train. I agree, Megumi mumbled. Not you too, Yuuji wailed. About 20 minutes later, they reached their destination, with Satoru waving at them to follow him. The quartet of students and teacher reached a house that looked quite small, though it looked cozy. Satoru walked up to the front door and knocked a few times. Then, with a grin, he knocked several more times, making Megumi and Nobara's eye twitch in irritation while Yuuji simply snickered. Just as he was about to knock again, a fairly pretty woman opened the door. Then, as soon as she saw Satoru, she scowled. Ah, you're here, she said unhappily. Izumi-chan, you wound me, Satoru dramatically said, holding a hand to his heart. Don't you love me anymore? No, she deadpanned, then she peered behind him. Ah, you've brought your brats with you. Two of the said brats simply scowled back at her, politeness be damned, while Megumi simply stared back, confused as to how this woman knew his sensei. Satoru straightened up. Yep, these are my students. Can we come in? Yeah, I guess, she grumbled, letting the man walk in along with the three students. Thank you. Oh, by the way brats, this is Yukihara Izumi, she's a friend of mine. Satoru introduced her. No, I'm not. Ignore her, she's getting old. You're the same age as me. The three glanced at each other before deciding to ignore the two. Adults are weird, was the collective thought of the three students, Nobara looking less and less impressed with Satoru. The woman guided them over to a couch before yelling out, Old man, Gojo's here. An old man that reminded Yuuji much of his late grandfather walked into the room. His left arm was gone and he had a very slight limp in his left leg. Megumi knew just from look alone that the man had been a sorcerer when he was younger and possibly retired because of his clear injuries. He just gave off that aura. Ah, Satoru-kun, it's been a while, he said warmly, patting Satoru's shoulder. It sure has, Hikaru-sama, Satoru said with a grin. These are my students. Itadori Yuuji-kun, Fushiguro Megumi-kun, and Kugasaki Nobara-chan, he introduced, turning to them. A pleasure, Hikaru said, furrowing his brow, appraising them, making them straighten up. His eyes glanced over each of them before focusing on Megumi in particular. Your name is Girly, he deadpanned. Nobara snorted loudly while Yuuji at least tried to hide his snickers, while Megumi tried his best to hide a scowl, but before he could say anything, the man laughed. Oh, my apologies. Anyways, just like that, his laughter vanished and a serious expression took over, making the trio sweat drop at the man's bipolar personality. Satoru, you know why I called you here? Yeah, something about a kid from another world. That made all of them pause, with even Megumi simply staring flatly at the two men. Wait, Nobara said with a time out gesture. Did you just say a kid from another world? She demanded, looking at Satoru. That's right, girl, Hikaru said firmly, nodding. A few days ago, Izumi was attacked by a curse. It was a first grade, and as you know Satoru, Izumi isn't quite proficient in combat. At least not against a first grade. All eyes turned to the woman who stared back flatly until they all glanced away, then, out of nowhere. This stupid-looking brat with blonde hair and a really bad fashion sense jumps out of nowhere and exorcises it with a single attack, he said grimly. A single attack? Megumi questioned with raised eyebrows and slightly wide eyes as Satoru simply looked on in interest. I shit you not, kid. Then he talks, he does that a lot. about himself and tells me that he somehow got here after being sucked into a vortex while fighting a war against a hot rabbit goddess and an old fossil that came back to life. He said, and with each syllable their expressions turned more and more flat, yet there was ample amount of disbelief in the air. I see, Satoru said, tilting his head. Hikaru nodded as if he understood his reaction completely. The kid's fucking weird, but he saved Izumi's life and seems decent enough. Satoru, his voice turned deadly serious, he is a vessel. A vessel, Satoru said in shock. He's one too, Yuuji blurts out in shock. Hikaru's serious expression turned to one of incredulity before his eyes widened. Ah, you must be Sukuna's vessel. He nodded. Yes, this kid is a vessel. Of what? Satoru asked sharply. He said it's a being made up of energy called chakra that is sealed in his stomach. He calls it Karama. It's similar to the Kyuubi no Yoko of legends, but he insists that it isn't a demon. Hikaru explained. Surprisingly enough, that's not the weirdest thing. Hard to imagine anything weirder than that. He has no cursed energy, he said. I stand corrected, Satoru said, blinking in shock. But wait, Yuuji said, furrowing his brows, I thought only curses can exorcise other curses. How did this guy exorcise a curse without any cursed energy? He asked in confusion. You're right, but that is indeed what happened. It was Izumi who said this. There's no heavenly restriction on him. He didn't even know what that meant, yet he has no cursed energy. He can exorcise curses with a single attack, yet that attack wasn't made up of cursed energy. But how? That goes against the very laws of Jujutsu. Satoru asked with a frown. He says that his attack was made of chakra, and I felt it, Satoru. It was made up of energy that I've never felt before. It was beautiful, he said, a smile forming on his face. There was a moment of silence as Yuuji nudged Megumi. What's a heavenly restriction? He asked quietly. Megumi sighed, but answered, it's a kind of curse restriction that affects a cursed energy of an individual in exchange for physical improvements, he said. Before pausing at the, what the hell are you talking about look on Yuji's face. Basically, the person won't have any or will have less cursed energy in exchange for buffs. Nobara explained impatiently after realizing that Megumi had no idea how to explain it in a way that Yuji's brain could grasp. That was surprisingly academic from you, Megumi said without thinking, and Nobara gave him a glare that could melt glaciers. Then why call me? Satoru asked, ignoring the conversation between his students, though he had a fairly good idea why he was called here. Hikaru looked at him seriously. Simply put, I want you to take a look at this kid with your eyes. If he's not a threat, I want you to convince Yaga to take him into the school. He's young, and he's got a lot of talent. It would be a waste if he just mopes around. Mopes around? Satoru asked, raising an eyebrow. He's been in a right sad state once he seemingly realized that he can't go back to his world. Izumi said with a sigh, it's kinda wretched, I feel bad for him. I'm sure that, if we were in his circumstances, we would feel the same way. Not being able to go home. Yuuji mused before frowning in sympathy for this stranger. Yeah, that must suck. Call him. I wanna talk to him, Satoru demanded, looking at Hikaru. The old man nodded. Naruto. He yelled, get over here, you brat. I want you to meet someone. A minute later, they heard an annoyed voice say, what the hell, old man? I was sleeping. I nearly fell off the bed from your loud voice. The voice did indeed sound quite bleary, and had a bit of raspiness to it. Hikaru gained a irked mark on his forehead. See what I mean? He's been doing nothing but sleep. Go to the backyard and train, eat, and repeat. He said with annoyance, though there was concern in his tone that even Yuuji picked up on. A blonde-haired teen with cerulean blue eyes and strange, whisker-like marks on each cheek, dressed in orange shorts and a black t-shirt, walked into the room, rubbing the back of his head. Megumi didn't miss the air around him. It felt dangerous, despite the teen's seemingly harmless appearance. Satoru observed the teen, who glared at the old man, though his eyes did trail around the room at the newcomers. He saw the way his eyes lingered particularly on him and Megumi, which he thought was quite odd. It seemed like the kid was surprised by them, and he even thought he saw a flash of recognition, particularly when the boy looked at him, though it vanished just as quickly. Really odd. Naruto, this is Gojo Satoru and his students. Satoru, this is Uzumaki Naruto, he's the anomaly. Hikaru introduced. Huh, was the quiet response, before he glanced at the four once again, this time more obviously. Right, nice to meet you. I'm Uzumaki Naruto, Datbeo, he said, smiling in a friendly manner and waved. Datbeo, Nobara repeated with a confused frown. It's kinda my verbal tick, he said with a sheepish grin. Lame, she said with a huff. Naruto's eye twitched. It is quite lame, Naruto-kun, Izumi said with a small snicker. He scowled. She kinda reminds me of Ino, he thought. Naruto, focus, came the rumbling voice of his tenant. Right, anyways, he paused. Wait, what did you call me here for? He asked Hikaru. Satoru here is a Jujutsu sorcerer. He's a teacher at Tokyo Jujutsu Tech, he answered, pointing to Satoru, who waved cheerfully at Naruto. Jujutsu sorcerer. His nose scrunched up in thought. Oh, you're those guys who get rid of those cursed things. He exclaimed, looking at Satoru with admiration in his eyes. You kinda remind me of my own sensei, Datbeo. Oh, how so? Satoru asked, before smiling. Was he also a handsome, charismatic, badass, all-powerful sorcerer that all the ladies love? He said, winking at Izumi, who simply scoffed at him. Somehow realizing that he was winking despite the blindfold. Naruto's sweat dropped at the man's cockiness. Not really. I have no idea if he's handsome. He always wears this mask on his face. He is kinda badass and pretty powerful, Naruto said thoughtfully, and Satoru puffed up his chest before Naruto scowled. He was also lazy, was always hours late to every meeting. A pervert who openly read smut in front of kids, and was a really shitty teacher for the most part. Satoru comically deflated as the three young students simply blinked at him and nodded. Gojo-sensei is late sometimes, Yuuji said thoughtfully, thinking of the time when they were late to meet the principal for his interview. He's pretty lazy, Megumi added with disinterest. And he better not be a pervert, Nobara said with a scalding glare at Satoru, who simply cried anime tears as his students badmouthed him. Satoru instantly stood up though, placing a hand to his chin as he walked over to Naruto, leaning down to look at him closely, making the boy back up slightly. Yeesh. Why are you so damn close? He complained. The man didn't say anything for a while until he suddenly leaned back. I can't detect any other presence other than you, which is weird. The old man told me that you're a vessel, he said, looking at Naruto expectantly. A vessel, not the words I'm familiar with, but yeah, I do have another being in me. Naruto replied, smirking a bit. I am the container of Kurama, the nine-tailed fox, he said proudly. He got no reaction other than blank looks. See what I mean? The kid's fucking weird, Hikaru said flatly, making Naruto twitch. I'm not weird, it's true. Look, he said, raising his t-shirt up to expose his stomach and abs. He channeled chakra into the seal, making it appear instantly. They all gasped when they saw the spiral seal on his stomach, feeling an eerie energy flowing out of it. Satoru narrowed his eyes, not that anyone took at it, and leaned down to look at the seal. Okay, he is a pervert, Nobara said after a moment. No, I'm not, Satoru whined, standing back up. You kinda don't help yourself, looking at my stomach that closely, Naruto said, lamely dropping his shirt after getting no reaction from anyone. What do you think, Satoru? Hikaru asked the man. Oh, I have no idea what it is. I've never seen anything like it, Satoru said with a cheerful smile. Real helpful you are, Izumi sarcastically muttered, but they all heard it. I don't think you'll understand any of it. The seal was created using chakra, and from what I've seen, the people of this world don't have any chakra. Naruto said thoughtfully, accepting the seat next to Izumi, who moved to the side to accommodate. There's that word again, chakra. What is that? Is it similar to Hindu or Buddhist beliefs? Satoru asked, sitting back down and leaning back lazily. Naruto simply blinked. I got no idea what you're talking about. I've no idea what Hindu or Buddhist means, he said. What? But you speak Japanese, how can you not know what Buddhist means if you live in Japan? Nobara asked in confusion. Naruto shrugged. This place looks nothing like my homeland. You all speak the same language, and some architecture is kinda similar, but everything else is very different. In my world, we don't have Japan or Asia. There's more than one continent, but I'm from the continent called the Elemental Nations, he said proudly, though his smile dimmed when he received blank looks. He knew that there was no way they could understand any of what he means, but still. Satoru sensed the sadness and disappointment, but the boy quickly covered it up with a bright smile. Well, anyways, I'm willing to tell you all about it. You know, provided that you try and help me find my way back home, he said cheerfully. Naruto, Hikaru sighed. You can't know I can't go back without even trying, Naruto yelled back in protest. We have no techniques that open portals to other worlds, Satoru said with pity as Naruto looked at him. My technique, Limitless, is capable of manipulating space, but I can't open any portals. And I'm the strongest sorcerer. Naruto couldn't hide the look of sadness and disappointment, and everyone looked at him with sympathy and pity. It must suck not being able to go back home and being stranded in a place that he had no knowledge about and was completely different from his own world. It must suck even worse knowing that, no matter what, he simply cannot go back home. It's not so bad, Yuuji tried to cheer the boy up. Look, we'll help you adjust here. You already have the language down, and hey, if there is a way to send you back home, we'll help you find it. Naruto tried to smile, but it came off as a grimace. Thanks. Itadori Yuuji, the pink-haired boy said with a smile. Fushiguro Megumi, the raven-haired boy said with a nod. Kugisaki Nobara, the ginger-haired girl said with a small smirk. And I'm Gojo Satoru, the ever-so-handsome, all-powerful, all-knowing badass. Satoru said with a beaming grin. Now, Naruto-kun. Hikaru-sama tells me that you can exorcise first-grade curses with a single attack despite not having any cursed energy. You know what that is? Yeah, the old man explained it to me. It's much simpler than chakra. Anyways, usually, curses can only be exorcised by using cursed energy or cursed tools. For you to have exorcised a curse without either of them means that you're an anomaly. You go against the very laws of our world. But, Satoru said, standing up, since you're kinda stranded here with nothing to do, I was wondering if you would like to join Jujutsu Tech. Naruto blinked. What's that? He asked, scratching his head. Jujutsu Tech is a school where we teach young students like these three, he said, pointing to his students, to use their cursed energy to exorcise curses and become Jujutsu sorcerers. Being a Jujutsu sorcerer is, in essence, a vigilante job where we are paid to exorcise curses. It's high risk, but it helps save lives. So, what do you say? Wanna join? It's kinda abrupt, Datbeo. Do you have something better to do? Well, not really, I guess. Excellent. Why don't you come with us for a trial run? I was just about to take these three to Roppongi to exorcise a curse, Satoru said with a bright smile. What? I thought you were taking us there as part of a tour. Yuuji yelled in protest. You're such an ass. How could you toy with us country folk like that? Nobara yelled, equally as loud. Megumi simply sighed, used to Satoru's antics. He does that, he said dryly, before looking over at Naruto, who seemed hesitant. It would be a waste if you just sit here and do nothing. Waiting for a way back home. At least this way, you can encounter people who have the potential to find such things, he said. With a sigh, Naruto nodded, before grinning. Guess you're right. I'm more of a doer kinda guy. Sitting around and doing nothing doesn't suit me, he said, standing up and clenching his fists. It gives me something to do. And I know you said there's almost zero possibility of me finding a way back home, but I can't just give up. I've got friends there, hell, family, who I care for a lot. They're all no doubt wondering where the hell I've gone. Giving up here means that I'm giving up on them, he said, brimming with determination, and I never give up. That's my ninja way. They all stared at him with varying levels of disbelief and surprise. Hikaru chuckled quietly, even though logically he knew it wasn't possible to create enough energy to open a portal to the kid's home. The way he said it made him want to believe it. But it was Nobara who focused on the important part. Wait, you're a ninja? She gasped in surprise. Naruto nearly fell over in surprise. Yeah. I'm Uzumaki Naruto future. Yeah, I'm a ninja. Been one since I was 12, he said, forcing himself to grin. How the hell can he call himself future Hokage if he can't even get back there? That's so cool, Yuuji said with stars in his eyes. Can you walk on water? Do you use kunai and shuriken? Nobara asked, equally as starstruck. Do you sneak around and assassinate people? Are you a spy? Can you walk on walls? Naruto's sweat dropped at the barrage of questions. I've never assassinated someone and I've never been a spy, but I've known people who've done both of those things. And yeah, I can walk on water and walls. To demonstrate, he stood up and walked over to the nearest wall and placed his right foot on the wall, channeling chakra into it. The group watched, astonished as Naruto walked up the wall like it was just the floor. Spider-Man. He's like Spider-Man, Yuuji exclaimed childishly as he looked up at Naruto, who was standing on the ceiling upside down with a proud grin. Satoru grinned. This is going to be very interesting. But guys, I'm gonna end it off right here. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe. But without further ado, I'm out and I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay blessed, fam.